In the vastness of space, the International Space Station floated like a silver speck against the backdrop of 1,000 glimmering stars. A miracle of human engineering, it was a symbol of collaboration, hope, and the boundless possibilities of science. Yet, unknown to its crew of 6, darkness was encroaching, and what once united humanity in its quest for knowledge was about to become a theatre of chaos. Commander Sarah Reynolds peered through the viewport, captivated by the breathtaking view of the Earth below. The swirling blues and greens painted a mesmerizing picture, a tapestry of life that felt simultaneously distant and achingly close. As the station orbited, she felt a sense of pride, knowing she was part of something greater. But that pride was short-lived. The station had been receiving strange signals for weeks, random bursts of static and incoherent transmissions that caused unease among the crew. At first, they dismissed it as interference, perhaps the result of solar activity. Yet, as the days passed, the signals grew more complex, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. "Commander, you need to see this," said Dr. Leo Patel, the station's lead scientist, his voice tense. Sarah turned to find him staring at the control panel, eyes wide with fear. "What is it, Leo?" she asked, her heart racing. "Those signals. They're not random, they're patterns, repeating sequences. I think they might be some sort of communication," he explained, his fingers dancing over the touchscreen. "Communication?" Sarah echoed, stepping closer. "From who?" Before Leo could respond, the lights flickered, and the station shuddered slightly. Alarms blared, red lights flashing ominously. The other crew members rushed into the control room, confusion and fear evident on their faces. "What's happening?" shouted Elizabeth, the communications officer, trying to steady her breathing. "I don't know. We just lost external sensors," Leo replied, furiously typing commands into the console. The screens flickered, showing only static and eerie, distorted images. "Could it be a malfunction?" Sarah suggested, though a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. "Malfunction, no," Leo shook his head, his voice dropping to a whisper. "This feels intentional." As if to emphasize his point, the station lurched violently, sending everyone scrambling for support. The crew exchanged panicked glances, the gravity of their situation sinking in. This wasn't just a technical failure, it felt like an assault. Suddenly, the lights dimmed to an unsettling twilight, and a deep, resonant hum filled the cabin. It reverberated through their bones, chilling them to the core. Sarah clutched the edge of the console, her heart racing. "We need to figure out what's going on. Leo, can you stabilize the systems?" "I'll try," he replied, his voice steady, but his hands shaking. He began working furiously, but the screen continued to display chaotic patterns. Then, a new transmission broke through the static, a voice alien and resonant. "Humanity, you are now ours. Your will is ours." The crew froze, horror etched on their faces. The voice was unlike anything they had heard before, deep and unearthly, reverberating in their minds, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. It felt invasive, as if it were reaching into their very thoughts. "What the hell was that?" shouted Daniel, the station's engineer, his voice trembling. "It sounded like a threat," Elizabeth breathed, her face pale. "It's more than a threat," Leo whispered, eyes wide. "It's a command." The crew stood in stunned silence, the implications washing over them like cold water. Just then, the lights flickered back to life, and the control panels returned to normal. Almost too normal. But the calm was deceptive. Sarah's heart raced as she glanced around, trying to assess her team. "We need to take back control of this station," she said, voice steadying as she assumed command. "Leo, can you isolate the source of that transmission?" "I'll do my best," he said, returning to the console, fingers flying over the keys. Meanwhile, Sarah turned to the others. "Daniel, check the auxiliary systems. Make sure we have power reserves. Elizabeth, contact mission control. Tell them we're experiencing..." Before she could finish her command, a blinding light enveloped the room. It pulsated with an intensity that made them shield their eyes, and the hum intensified, drowning out all sound. When the light faded, they slowly lowered their hands to find that the cabin had transformed. The walls shimmered with an ethereal glow, and the control panels displayed alien symbols that seemed to shift and twist. The atmosphere felt charged, electric, and for a moment, time itself seemed to stretch, bending under the weight of an unseen force. "What is happening?" Daniel gasped, stepping back in disbelief. "Stay calm," Sarah ordered, though her own voice trembled. "We need to regroup." But the crew was paralyzed, each member caught in the grip of the alien presence that had infiltrated their minds. Thoughts began to swirl chaotically, and the crew found themselves battling against whispers that slithered into their consciousness, planting seeds of doubt and fear. "You will serve us. You will be one with us." The voice echoed in their minds, a cacophony of alien intent that shattered their resolve. A sudden surge of willpower ignited within Sarah. She shook her head violently, trying to clear her mind. "Fight it," she shouted, determination igniting a fire in her chest. "We can't let them take us." Daniel clutched his head, sweat beading on his forehead. "I can't. It's too strong." Leo, however, managed to focus long enough to tap into the console. "If we can block their signals, we might regain control." "Do it," Sarah urged, her voice fierce as she felt the alien influence weaken momentarily. She could see her crew struggling, but they had to hold on. "We're stronger together." With a deep breath, she'd reached out to each of her team members, focusing her thoughts on unity and resilience. "Remember Earth. Remember why we're here." The voice of the alien entity echoed in response, furious and relentless. "Resistance is futile. You belong to us." Sarah's resolve grew stronger. "No, we are human. We won't let you take us." The flickering symbols on the screen seemed to pulse in response to her defiance. Leo worked feverishly, each keystroke a battle against the invading force. "If I can just reroute the communication systems. I need a few more seconds." In that moment, Sarah felt a surge of energy around her, an invisible barrier forming between the crew and the insidious whispers. They shared a fleeting glance, fear and determination coiling together in their eyes. With a guttural roar, Sarah stepped forward, drawing upon every ounce of strength. "You will not take us. We will fight." As if responding to her cry, the lights flickered violently, and a final pulse of energy erupted from the control panels. It surged outward, crashing against the alien presence like a tidal wave. For a heartbeat, it felt as though time had stopped, suspended in the electric air of the station. Then, with a jarring jolt, the alien connection snapped. The crew fell to the floor, gasping for breath, the weight of the intrusion lifting. They looked at one another, bewildered but alive, and for the first time there was a sense of triumph, however fleeting. "Leo, did it work?" Sarah panted, struggling to her feet. "I think so," he replied, breathing heavily as he monitored the screens. "The signals have stopped, but we can't let our guard down. Whatever that was, it will come back." "Then we need to prepare," Sarah said, determination hardening in her voice. "We have to understand what we're dealing with." Elizabeth, who had been silent until now, looked at Sarah, fear etched on her face. "But how? We don't even know what they are." As the crew slowly regained composure, Sarah knew they had no time to waste. "We'll start by analysing the data we received. If we can decode those signals, we might understand their intentions and how to combat them." They rallied around the control panel, exhaustion heavy in the air, yet a flicker of hope ignited within them. They were alive, and as long as they had breath, they would not surrender. But even as they prepared to decipher the mysterious transmission, shadows loomed outside the ISS, unseen and waiting. The battle for humanity was only just beginning, and the darkness of space harbored secrets that could alter the fate of Earth forever. Hours passed, yet the crew remained steadfast, each member immersed in their respective tasks. The control room buzzed with the hum of technology, but beneath the surface an uneasy tension lingered. The spectre of the alien voice haunted them, echoing in their minds as they worked. Sarah directed Leo and Daniel to sift through the fragmented data, while she and Elizabeth reviewed the satellite communications logs for any signs of interference. As they combed through the information, a new understanding began to take shape. What if this is more than just a one-time attack? Elizabeth pondered, her voice barely above a whisper. What if they're planning something bigger? Sarah nodded, her brow furrowing. That's a distinct possibility. We have to assume that they are watching us, learning our weaknesses. As they continued their analysis, Sarah suddenly felt a chill creep down her spine. She glanced at the observation window, the vastness of space stretching infinitely before them. A flicker of movement caught her eye, but when she focused, all she saw was darkness. "Do you feel that?" she asked, turning to the others. "What?" Leo replied, glancing up from the console. "The air. It's different," Sarah said, a knot of dread forming in her stomach. The lights flickered again, and this time the hum returned, more powerful than before. They all turned as a series of holographic images erupted from the control panel. Alien landscapes, monstrous forms, and structures that defied earthly comprehension. "What the hell is this?" Daniel exclaimed, stumbling back as the images pulsed with life. Sarah moved closer, her heart racing as she tried to decipher the surreal visuals. "I think it's showing us something. It's trying to communicate." "Behold the Dominion," the voice echoed again, deep and commanding, flooding their minds. "You will join us or perish." "Get it out! Get it out!" Daniel shouted, pressing his palms against his ears as if that would block the invasive thoughts. Leo grunted, fingers flying over the controls. "I'm trying. The systems are overloaded." As chaos erupted in the control room, Sarah fought to keep her mind clear. "We can't let it take control again. Focus on the visuals. There might be a clue." In the swirling chaos of images, Sarah caught a glimpse of something, an insignia that resembled a serpent coiling around a planet. "There, that symbol," she shouted, pointing. "What does it mean?" Leo squinted at the screen. "I don't know, but it's repeating. It could be key to understanding their intention." Suddenly the station shuddered again, the lights flickering violently. They felt the weight of an unseen force pressing in around them. "We're losing control," Leo shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Everyone, hold on!" Sarah yelled, her voice cutting through the din. She gripped the edge of the console, heart racing as the room spun with disorienting energy. Then, without warning, the power surged, and the holographic images morphed, revealing a monstrous being, a creature of nightmares towering over them, with eyes that glowed like molten lava. Its body shifted, reflecting light in unsettling ways, and its many limbs writhed like serpents. "Join the Dominion!" it hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers and roars, echoing in their minds. "Submit to our will." In that moment, a primal fear gripped the crew, yet Sarah felt a flicker of defiance ignite within her. "No!" she shouted, summoning her strength. "We will fight!" The creature snarled, and for an instant it seemed to recoil. The holograms flickered, and the images dissolved into static, leaving them in darkness. "Did we win?" Elizabeth gasped, breathless and wide-eyed. "I don't know," Sarah replied, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "But we need to prepare for their next move. We have to understand what we're dealing with before they attack again." They exchanged determined looks, each member feeling the weight of their resolve. They had survived the first encounter, but they knew that a greater storm was brewing beyond the stars, one that threatened not just the ISS, but the very fate of Earth itself. As they settled back into their tasks, a shadow of dread loomed outside the station. an unseen threat lurking just beyond the edge of perception. But within the hearts of the crew, a fierce fire burned, igniting their spirits. They were not ready to surrender, and the battle for humanity was just beginning. The crew worked through the night, fueled by adrenaline and determination. Their mission was clear: to decode the alien transmissions and fortify their defenses against an unseen enemy. Sarah sat at the control panel, surrounded by a whirlwind of data, trying to piece together the puzzle of their alien adversary. The atmosphere inside the station was thick with tension, but she refused to let fear take root. They needed to stay focused. "Okay, we have to analyze that symbol further," she said, gesturing to the glowing insignia that had appeared in the holographic projections. "Leo, can you cross-reference it with any known galactic entities?" "Already on it," he replied, his fingers racing over the keyboard. "If they're part of a larger coalition or empire, we might find records of them." Elizabeth and Daniel scanned through the satellite feeds, searching for any anomalies or signs of interference from Earth. Each passing second felt like an eternity, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. Come on, Sarah muttered, biting her lip as she concentrated on the streams of data. Just then, Leo's voice broke through her thoughts. "I think I found something. The symbol is associated with an ancient race known as the Serathans. They were rumored to possess advanced technology and had a reputation for subjugating weaker civilizations." "Great," Daniel said, rolling his eyes. "Just what we need. What else do we know about them?" "They're mostly myth," Leo admitted, eyes darting across the screen. "There are some scattered mentions in ancient texts and legends, but nothing concrete. They were said to be able to manipulate minds, brainwashing their enemies into submission." "Like they're trying to do to us," Elizabeth exclaimed, her voice shaking. "They want to control the ISS and use it to invade Earth." "Exactly," Sarah replied, the realization hitting her like a cold wave. "If they're using our own technology against us, we have to find a way to disrupt their control." As they continued their research, Sarah felt a growing sense of urgency. They were racing against time, and the longer they stayed in the station, the more vulnerable they became to the alien influence. "We need to enhance our shielding," Daniel suggested, glancing at the engineering schematics. "If we can modify the outer layer, it might deflect their signals." "Do it," Sarah commanded, her voice firm. "We'll need all the protection we can get." The crew sprang into action, and as they worked, the hum of the station became an ambient backdrop to their frantic movements. They were united in purpose, the fear of the unknown transforming into a determination to survive. But just as they began implementing the modifications, the lights flickered once more, plunging them into darkness. "Not again!" Daniel cursed, fumbling for his flashlight. The hum returned, louder and more oppressive, drowning out their voices. Then a new sound joined the cacophony, a deep, guttural growl reverberating through the walls of the ISS. "You cannot escape," the alien voice echoed, chilling them to the bone. "You are already ours." Panic surged through the crew as they clutched their tools, eyes darting around the darkened cabin. Sarah felt a wave of dread wash over her, but she fought to maintain control. "Stay focused," she shouted, her voice steady amidst the chaos. "We can't let them take us again." Suddenly, a blinding light flared to life, illuminating the control room. The alien creature manifested before them, its form shifting and undulating, eyes blazing with otherworldly power. "Your defiance is futile," it hissed, its voice echoing in their minds. "Join us or be annihilated." Sarah stepped forward, defiance burning in her chest. "We will never submit to you." The creature snarled, and for a moment, the room trembled with an unseen force. Sarah felt her mind teetering on the edge of despair, the whispers creeping in once more. But she remembered her crew, each member a beacon of strength, and that thought anchored her. "Together," she shouted, rallying her team, We have to fight this." As if drawn by her determination, a surge of energy rippled through the room. The creature faltered, the light flickering as it struggled against their collective will. "Your will is weak," it roared. But Sarah felt the presence begin to wane, the oppressive weight lifting as they united against it. "Leo, now!" she shouted. With renewed vigor, Leo activated the modified shielding. A pulse of energy erupted from the control panel, colliding with the alien presence and creating a brilliant explosion of light. The room filled with blinding radiance, and the creature howled in fury. The images on the screens twisted and morphed, and Sarah could feel the fabric of reality shifting around them. "Keep pushing," Sarah urged, every ounce of strength focused on their shared goal. They were fighting for their lives, and the bond they shared gave them strength. As the light engulfed the room, the alien entity began to dissolve, its form disintegrating into a swirling mass of energy. With one final scream, it vanished, leaving the crew breathless and trembling. "We did it!" Elizabeth gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "For now," Sarah cautioned, looking at the screens as they returned to normal. "But we can't let our guard down. We need to analyze what just happened." Exhausted but exhilarated, they gathered around the console, knowing that the battle for their very souls had only just begun. As the days turned into a blur of frantic activity, the crew pushed themselves to the brink. They analyzed every fragment of data, piecing together the motivations and capabilities of the Serathans. "We need to understand their biology," Leo suggested. One evening, exhaustion etched on his face. "If we can identify a weakness, we might have a chance." "Agreed," Sarah replied, leaning over the control panel. "Let's cross-reference their known history with our current data. Maybe there's something in their physiology that we can exploit." They began to sift through ancient texts and cosmic legends, looking for clues. As Sarah pored over the information, she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Serathans wouldn't rest until they had total control, and every moment they spent researching felt like a moment they were vulnerable. "Look at this," Elizabeth said suddenly, pointing at a screen displaying an old mythological text. "This mentions a core, something that acts as a central nervous system for the Serathans. If we can sever that connection, we might disrupt their control." "That's it!" Leo exclaimed, eyes alight with realization. "If we can identify their core location, we can create a signal that disrupts it." Sarah's heart raced with hope. "Can we find out where it might be?" "Let me see," Leo said, diving back into the data. As he worked, Sarah glanced out the observation window, the swirling colors of Earth below appearing deceptively peaceful. She felt a surge of protectiveness for her home planet, a reminder of what was at stake. Just then, Daniel burst into the control room, eyes wild. "You guys need to see this. We're getting anomalous readings from the communications arrays." "What kind of readings?" Sarah asked, heart pounding. "It looks like they're trying to send something, like a beacon," Daniel exclaimed, pointing at the monitor. "If we don't act fast, they might have a way to coordinate an attack." "We have to intercept it," Leo said, urgency rising in his voice. "If they're trying to send a message to other ships, we need to disrupt it." Sarah nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Then let's do it. Everyone to your stations." As they scrambled to the control panels, Sarah felt the weight of their mission pressing down on her. Failure was not an option. "Daniel, can you modify the communication systems to create a feedback loop?" she instructed. "I can try," he replied, fingers flying over the keys. "Leo, keep monitoring the readings. We need to know exactly what they're trying to send." "Got it," Leo said, focusing intently on the screens. Elizabeth remained at the helm, ready to coordinate their efforts. The tension in the air was palpable, each member of the crew acutely aware of the stakes. As they worked, the lights flickered ominously, and the familiar hum returned. But this time it felt different, more sinister, as if the Serathans were aware of their plans. "You will not succeed," the alien voice echoed, a chilling reminder of their foe. "You will become one with us." Sarah fought against the wave of despair that threatened to crash over her. "No, we're not afraid of you." Just then, the screens illuminated with the Serathan beacon, a complex array of signals that danced across the display. "We're running out of time," Daniel shouted, panic creeping into his voice. With a surge of determination, Sarah stepped forward. "Everyone, focus! We can't let them win. Leo, give me the details on that signal." "They're sending coordinates," Leo shouted, eyes wide with realization. "It looks like they're trying to reach a central hub, probably a command ship." "Then we have to disrupt it," Sarah said, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Daniel, create the feedback loop. Leo, let's work on a counter-signal to overload their systems." With a deep breath, they dove into their tasks, the atmosphere electric with urgency. Sarah felt her heart racing as they raced against the clock, fighting against the alien encroachment. As the hum intensified, the screens began to display distorted images, flickering shapes and shadows that hinted at the lurking danger. "Hold on, we're almost there," Daniel shouted, fingers moving deftly as he manipulated the controls. But the pressure was mounting, and the voice of the Serathans returned, more powerful than before. "You will not defy us." "Focus! We can't let them distract us," Sarah urged, her voice cutting through the chaos. With a final keystroke, Daniel activated the feedback loop. The control panel erupted with energy, sending pulses of light cascading through the room. "Now, send the counter-signal," Sarah commanded, and Leo hit the key with trembling hands. The energy surged, and for a brief moment the screens displayed an explosion of light as the alien signals clashed. But then, a scream echoed in their minds, sending shivers down their spines. "You will regret this," the voice howled, filled with rage and pain. As the screen flickered, they could see the Serathan command ship, the massive structure glowing ominously in the dark void of space. "Did it work?" Elizabeth asked, breathless. "We disrupted their signal," Leo replied, excitement filling his voice. "But we have to be ready for retaliation." Just as he finished speaking, the station shuddered violently, and alarms blared once more. "Brace yourselves," Sarah shouted, gripping the edge of the control panel as the lights flickered. The ship rattled as a blinding light surrounded them, and the Serathans unleashed their fury. "You will pay!" the voice boomed, echoing through their minds like a thunderclap. But Sarah felt a renewed sense of strength. They were fighting back, they had a plan, and they would not back down.